Hello and welcome back to Winter's Tales, where today, well, now, because we've been streaming this for so long already, but we're in the final stretch of this 48-hour calamity, and in order to sort of create something new, add a little bit of freshness into this 48 hours, we decided to bring in some incredible artists to manifest or bring to life some of the creations that we've been talking about over the last couple of games. We've had 6 out of 7 games thus far, and after this section, we are going to be bring to life the final game. So I'm going to be world building at the same time as we introduce, or shall I introduce, the 2 amazing artists. I'm actually going to hop over to this big ass world building stream overlay. But you will be able to hear them joining us for this section. Avery and Emily, they do sound like 2 harbingers of like death or like success or something, twins of chaos. But Avery, tell the people who you are and where they can find you. What do you do?
What do I do? I don't know. Hi, my name is Avery. I am an artist, full-time artist who mostly specializes in D&D and comics these days. For those of people who are familiar with the Fool's Gold YouTube series, I played Gothi in the original campaign that show is retelling, and have since moved on to my own comics and assorted D&D stuff. You can find me on the Corpse, formerly known as Twitter, at Dynabeez, DYNABEEZ, or Z if you're American.
Mm-hmm.
It's if you want to go hang out there. I have a comic currently running about stupid, sexy vampires and the Van Helsing that really wants to kill them, and other goodies.
It's incredible. When I heard about this, I was so happy, and then I got to see, I went and searched for it, and the art is just incredible. You're so very talented.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you on board for this little artists and world building section, as the 3 of us are going to create some cool things in the next couple of hours. But let me introduce as well to you Emily, who is our sponsor, technically, for the Chronicles of Aylwyn, and our current artist here at Winter's Tales, Emily K Smith. Emily, who are you? What do you do?
Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. It's an honor to be here. I am an illustrator, a comic artist, Dungeons and Dragons nerd. I founded a little festival in Western Australia called Blackwood D&D Winterfest, which aimed to help nerds around the rural Southwest and urban Southwest embrace community, get connected, get to play D&D with a whole bunch of people, and sort of bring the joys of Dungeons and Dragons and all other tabletop games as well to the wider Australian community. And it's been going from strength to strength. It's how I first met AJ.
Yes.
Who, Winter's Tales, Winterfest, kind of made for each other. Although I really must apologize how cold it was this year. Australia is not known for cold.
I almost lost a toe. It was so freaking cold.
We had
beautiful
icicles.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. Yeah. That never happens in Australia.
We don't get that.
The Canadian over here is like, oh, poor babies.
Yeah.
I know. You're just like, drive in snow, see how you feel.
Well, because here's the thing, though. When you have winter weather in your area, you have buildings and clothing that is built for that temperature, right? So you would
Very
have
fair.
boots or pants or jackets that would actually keep the warmth in and be insulated. I luckily had a ski jacket, but the bottom half of my body, because I don't own a pair of actual jeans, because jeans are uncomfortable, I have a lot of clothes that look like jeans that aren't. Very stretchy, very thin, not anything that is going to keep in the heat. And so the ski jacket was the only thing keeping me warm in that moment, along with the hot cocoa that was being sold at this Winterfest. But yeah, truly so cold, because we were also in a metal shed. Nothing insulated.
Oh, gosh.
It was cold.
It was a tin can.
Yeah.
The amount of our budget that went on heaters, and the
Mm-hmm.
amount of our budget we have extended for more and bigger heaters.
Yep, smart.
Yeah.
I was not
I
expecting it to be that cold, but it was a beautiful event that Emily and the team at Blackwood, I was going to say Blackwater, but that's because of Blackwater D&D.
Yep.
It have put on every year for I want to say 5 or 7. Those are the 2 numbers that are coming to me. How long have you been running this now? Yearly?
2018 was the first one, so we've done 3 because COVID kind of screwed things up in the middle.
So it started 5 years ago.
Yep.
Yes. Absolutely freaking incredible. And Emily and I have been talking about teeing up something maybe for next year or for a future event. But I'm definitely going to be involved in going into like more of the countryside of Australia and playing D&D with people over there and volunteering my time to bring more stories to the community and like just make people feel happy for some escapism and Dungeons and Dragons, because that's what we do, right?
Exactly. You know,
exactly.
It's about, and my town's set up as a festival town, so why not?
Yeah.
You know, let the nerds have some fun for once. But yeah, aside from Winterfest, I illustrate, I sculpt, I worked on a few comic series around the Trap. I think probably the best known one was I did the comic tie-in to an Australian TV series called Clever Man, which was Indigenous science fiction fantasy. I am very proud that I got the producer hooked on D&D, and he's now one of my regular players. So,
fuck yeah,
nice.
But yeah, aside from that, I'm just really excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
No worries at all. I am so keen. Schmick also asks in chat, where is this event advertised? I will put a link up on the Winter's Tales Discord for the Winterfest so that you can see basically all of the information for that as well. But let's crack into what we're doing today, because I've got a very limited amount of time to pull together what the next game is going to be after the chaos of game number 6. And the 2 of you are helping us to bring 2 of the gods to life in illustrated form. So right now on screen we are witnessing or seeing the lovely little mood board from Emily, who is taking on the Emberflow Lord of Flames. I love it. And if I do this and swap the screen, boop, 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 we can hop over to Avery, who is currently doing the line work of the God of Gravity and Consequence. So I'm excited to see how these slowly come together. Because boy howdy, I think the art styles are going to be different. I'm imagining that I will hopefully, maybe if this world ever becomes canon, let's see after this game 7, because honestly it's getting ridiculous with the lore of this place, but if it does become canon in some way, shape or form, I would love to take these 2 depictions and sort of turn them into like tarot cards or like little posters of the gods themselves, and maybe eventually do up the other ones if they come back into fruition. Who knows? But these 2 gods, left off from the last game that we just ended, they have been re-risen into existence due to some shenanigans that were going on in some sort of chamber in a dark tower in a newly formed country. I did not have that much time to learn about what the previous world-building group had created, but we're going to basically dive back into that as we witness the art stuff. And I'd love to sort of check in with the artists and ask like questions. So if you guys in chat have any questions for the artists of like what they're doing style-wise, how they learnt these skills, so on and so forth, I'm going to ask them a bunch of questions as we go through this segment as well. So we're looking currently at Avery's style. Can you describe to us what you are creating? Because I gave you the vaguest of prompts for this gravity god, and I'm already so excited to see what you are creating here. What is your vision for this deity?
Well, when you say gravity, you also when you say gravity, you mean 2 things basically. You mean gravity and anti-gravity, the absence of gravity as well. So of course there's a lot of levitating elements to this deity here, but one of the first things that I picked out of gravity as a motif was a little bit of like astral and space and the creation of things like planets and black holes as well, because gravity is the entire reason universes exist. That's the entire reason planets or nebulous existence gravity as a starting point, as an origin point for all of this sort of stuff. So what I'm creating here is a deity that has a black hole as sort of their centerpiece of their forehead, almost as if they're wearing it like a crown. And then following that sort of hovering, pulling, flowing motif through the rest of their design. Something you told me was that they were once encased in amethyst.
Yep. So
I've taken the amethyst and I've kind of gone with the idea that they've broken out of it at some point, but not only that, but the amethyst is becoming integrated into themselves, because as a god of gravity, they would eventually pull everything into themselves and almost become one with those elements. So now the amethyst is hovering around them, and they use them primarily as their hands, because the rest of the deity, past their head, you can't really tell what exactly form they might have beneath this large shawl. And the shawl itself is ordained with the phases of the moon, because the moon, the moon's gravity also has the ability to change tides. So and of course, the moon being a object that is typically created from like shrapnel of different planets or asteroids that are again pulled together at a gravitational point.
Yeah, very, very true. And also, it's very, very fascinating because over the 6 games that we've had so far, the moons have come into play, because the playmat decided in game 2 of this 48-hour calamity that these things known as Star Eaters were going to burst forth through the astral gates that were opened in game 1 and basically start to consume the moons that were connected to the gods, or the old gods of this place. And so it was left with one amethyst-colored moon in reference to this gravity god, and one crescent-shaped dark blue moon. So I don't know if that is of anything that you would like to take, but the moon itself, being the amethyst full moon in the sky, was left, and the others were all consumed. So it works very nicely with your art.
It was a happy accident.
Yeah. We also know that the I don't know if it's changed as of yet, but I think it's still happening. So surrounding this planet, because 5 of the moons were destroyed, the debris from that destruction of those moons, like the rocks and the dust and everything that was sort of left in its wake from these Star Eaters, started being pulled around the planet in sort of like a ring, like the ones you see around Saturn. And so there's this ring around the world that is circulating the rock and dust of the 5 eaten or destroyed moons that were in red, orange, gold, green, and blue. So it's
awesome.
Creating this like aurora borealis light show around the planet as well, with this like churning geothermic storm. And yeah, that is being manifested by the god of gravity as well. So this is very, very cool.
That sounds perfect. I'm definitely going to come back to you about those colors once I start working on coloring this piece, because I think that'll be a great to work into the palette of this deity.
Nice. Very cool. Schmick asks, what kind of HIDs do you use to create this?
What kind of what?
HIDs?
I'm not familiar with what that refers to.
Don't know.
I mean, if you're asking what program I'm using Clip Studio Paint.
Nice. Same.
Yeah, let's hop over to Emily and see what Emily is starting to create, or what your vision is. Ooh, so cool. Emily, talk us through what you're designing, what you want to build to life with this thing.
All right, so we have the Emberflow, Lord of the Flames. I've got a little mood board here. I'm visualizing my boy, my girl, my lava person.
Lad.
But, you know, who cares about gender? They're made of lava. So
you could even say their gender is fluid.
Yeah.
Get out of the stream. That's amazing.
Goodbye, everybody. That was my time.
Absolutely amazing.
Okay, yeah. Okay, that's canon. They're gender fluid.
Yeah, for sure. There was a quote by Jeremy for the character that they played in game number 5. and it was I am beyond boy. It was just the perfect way to describe, and I immediately said, I want that as a shirt. I am beyond boy. So yeah, the gender fluid Ember Flow Lord of Flames, because Lord doesn't necessarily need to be gendered. Yeah. We can make it whatever the hell we want it.
Yeah. Who's the feudal warlord and who's the handmaiden? You know.
Yeah. Yeah, I do know that like the female version of Lord is lady, and it's like that's not as cool.
True.
Not nearly as cool.
What we should create our own version.
Okay, like we have our own word for Lord.
Yeah. Obviously, it has to be an L word, so it's like Lord, Lady, and something else, and we could decide what it is. Legion.
Yeah.
No, that's like plural.
Yeah.
You have many lords and ladies. You have a legion.
Oh, very cool.
Oh, okay. That reminded me of a dumb fun fact. Do you know what you know how like you have a pod of whales and you have a pride of lions? Like there's different pluralities for different groups of animals. The name for a group of owls is a court.
Ooh.
And the name for a group of flamingos, I think, is a fiesta. Which is just amazing.
Incredible.
Fiesta of flamingos, that's sick. Yep. Also, court of owls? Ooh.
Yeah.
That gives me so many ideas.
I believe there is I believe that's actually a name of like an organization in the Batman comics. They're like they're kind of like Gotham's Illuminati, basically, the Court of Owls.
That sounds.
Oh, actually, I might be wrong. I might be wrong. They might be called a jury.
Oh, that
is it a parliament?
Parliament of Owls?
Oh fuck! You're right. Yes, you're right. It is a parliament. Look, God, it says a lot about the wacky names.
Close enough.
Court is relatively similar.
Yeah. I mean, then I was just thinking of the Batman thing entirely. Oh well.
Hey, I don't.
Parliament is also good. Yeah.
I need to write down the notes of what just happened in this previous game, because boy howdy was it insane.
Sure, Emily and I will just ask questions to each other.
Go for it. Yeah.
Yes.
Anything you want.
So, okay, here's a question for you. Are you taking inspiration from any other kind of like goddish figures from other folklores in your lava deity here?
Ooh, well, I think there's a little. I mean, I'm a bit of a Greco-Roman nerd, as you know, any kid who grew up with a library and a mythology section kind of gets to be. So I'm definitely taking some inspiration from Ares, god of war, because there's a lot of like the classic hoplite armor. There's a lot of flame motifs. There's also a little bit of a Disney inspiration in Tekka. From the film Moana, there's obviously a lot of like Polynesian influence there. But just the visuals of the way they portrayed Tekka as a lava entity, I thought was very, very cool. So apart from that, I'm just pretty much taking a vague Gumby amorphous jelly baby silhouette made of spicy smoothie and jamming them in a suit of armor and seeing what sticks.
Nice.
And a lot of it, as many arts are, is going to be let's make this up as we go and see how it all works.
Totally.
I love that so much. Also, the jelly baby, the jelly baby base of this gender fluid molten rock god is just amazing. Boop, 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 boop. What about the reverse? What about for you, Avery?
I think primarily one of the things that I took inspiration from was chaos in Hades. They have you told me that this god is also a gender or genderless, and I remember how that god, at least to me, looking at that god in Hades, reminded me. They look a lot like David Bowie to me. Who I remember David Bowie was also kind of a gender icon in his own way. Like he didn't care much for like, you know, he would break gender rules all the time. I'm going off on a tangent. Yeah, I think a lot of the Hades artwork I'm kind of feeling for some of this god.
I like
Aside
that.
from that, yeah.
It does look very like, I love the way that even in just this line work, you've kind of nailed the gender fluidity of this being. Like, I'm not registering any sort of specific attributes to them, but I am also getting that like rock god in both senses of the word, in terms of like music, pop, rock star, as well as rock god. I love it. It's so cool.
This deity is like, I am neither male nor female. I am a threat.
Yeah, I am a problem.
Yeah.
I am the consequence.
Yep. Yeah. My gender is consequences. I love that.
My gender is consequences. Nice. That's amazing.
That's another shirt I've got to get for some friends I know.
Mm-hmm. That's a shirt I need to get for myself. And that is also the entire theme of today's 48-hour calamity as well, as we've been going through step by step, from game to world building session to this section with you guys as well, world building with the community and chat, all of the influences from the donations. It's all about choice and consequences. Their pronouns are uh-oh, said Kip in chat.
That's great.
Oh my god, that's incredible.
That's amazing.
Kip, that is props to you. My pronouns are uh-oh. That is amazing.
Kip the casual, you're the first saint of these deities.
Ooh, done. Done in a heartbeat. Kip is our lead mod, and has been an absolute godsend to me over the last, not only just in the last 48 hours, as well as the mod team that's been helping out, and people who basically jumped in where they could because we didn't have a lot of people in the background of this. And Kip has been the same person who's sending me messages being like, hey, have you done this thing? Do you need help with anything? I'm here if you need me. So Kip is definitely, Saint Kip.
Yeah, Saint Kip. Sounds good.
Absolutely.
Doing it. Saint, yeah. I was gonna say Saint Kipley, but I don't want to change your name. Okay, now I have to do something logical about what we were left with in this game. And there's a monastery with a sword that turned into a woman called the Ignition. There is a group of fighters defending the lands against the Mother Brine, and the rise of the, I shit you not, Piccolonians, who are sentient pickles, I assume, or pickle people. And then there's also the rise of, one of the players went out and planted a bunch of beans from a bag of beans, and then ran away and founded the Church of Beanides, that fought against the Piccolonians. And then one of the other members decided, well, there's not enough chaos in that. We're going to also bring about the castle rats. We're going to have castle rats that can control humans / mortals. Kind of Ratatouille style.
Okay, yeah. I was just like Ratatouille?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think you got your you got your work cut out for you.
I do.
You certainly do.
I do.
Is the pickle and the brine connected? Because, you know, you have to brine pickles.
Mm-hmm, that's exactly what it was. So the pickles, the sentient pickles, were, when someone tried to detect thoughts on them, they spoke in sort of the primordial and deep undertones of an eldritch being, and they kept on repeating that the old one will rise again. And when they allowed that to happen, basically the mother brine, or what is known as the Old One, was able to rise back out of the ground, in which they were trapped for the last, if I do the math correctly, it's been 35 years since the previous thing. And how long was it between those?
Eldritch Pickle God.
Eldritch Pickle God, kind of. I think because it's an old one, I think it's the rise of the Evergrowth that was banished. So some sort of like growth, like plant god.
Oh god, it's a mother, like sourdough.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. Or it's like they're like the patron of like acid or I don't know, vinegar.
Patron of acid and vinegar is so funny. Okay.
Could it be like pickles are what happened? Like, okay, so if a zombie is what happens when you turn a living creature and you like kind of give it new undeath light, is like a pickle like a zombie vegetable?
Okay.
Am I getting anywhere?
Okay.
Oh, that's
Am I making it worse?
You know what? I think what we gotta do to make this the most logical we can, because this world has gone through so many vast changes in the last couple of games. And 2 games ago, we merged the Feywild with this realm in sort of like pockets of existence. And then a group of people tried to transport a Duchess of the Court of Reflection back to her kingdom so that all-out war wouldn't break out. And there was this mysterious entity that seemed to be sort of controlling everything. And that entity has been coming back a few times, so I feel like this particular being is meddling in some things. I'm going to make them maybe the big bad.
Nice.
And in the meantime, whilst they've been meddling, as they've been tampering with this world, I think that we should basically turn the pickles, the beans, and the rats into like humanoid versions of that. So like plant people being maybe the beans. I'm thinking sort of like a crown of candy, maybe going with that sort of undead vibe. Who knows? But these like twisted new races, and then the castle rats becoming like sentient rat folk, which to me is giving very Sugar Plum Fairy vibes. If anyone knows the Nutcracker, the story of the Nutcracker?
Yes,
sure. Okay,
yes, with the Rat King.
With the Rat King. So Castle Rat, Rat King, in the world that's been shaped with Feywild within it, I'm getting a very Nutcrackery vibe.
Mm-hmm.
So how do I make all of that make sense? Let me ruminate. Kip also says...
Some of it could be...
Ooh. The rat that is definitely not the rat from Ratatouille is the long-lost Frost Prince hiding in a new form, and that organization is in service of the Frost Prince finally out to influence the world. That is very Nutcracker. We got the Frostlings involved. I'm loving it. Okay. Got something forming.
It could also be that some of these, like the more obtuse things, like the pickles or the beans, is that it's not what they actually call, but that's what everybody has begun to refer to them as, almost in an impolite way.
Oh. Yeah. Okay. So the word.
Derogatory,
Yeah.
or...
I see what you're saying. So we're taking the concept that the players were talking about and giving it like a more realistic kind of setting. In saying like they call them the Piccolonians as like an insult, as like the Piccolonians because maybe they are the like
they smell like vinegar.
Yeah, like an acidic-y plant race or something.
Yeah, maybe
That's
this
cool.
was a race.
It's not what we call ourselves.
Yeah, a race that was preserved for centuries or millennia by keeping them in
the mother brine.
Like in a brine that kept them in suspended animation. And then, I mean, primitive batteries were basically acids, metals, and salts. So if they were kept in metallic containers that were then charged with electricity, like they could have been human batteries or humanoid batteries. There's all sorts of things you could do with them if they were kept in suspension.
So it's very funny because the character from Fool's Gold Gothy is that she She was essentially that. Like she got to be so old, and because she was preserved from like a blessing from a god, but she's still kind of semi-aged. She did pickle. She did become basically herself, but a pickle, and then was reverted later back to her full like, okay, I'm actually in my like actual form. But then we met a whole bunch of other people and other ones who were quite old, and then there was another old lady grandma who we referred to as Granny Pickle, just because like she's like, oh, it's just like Gothy when Gothy was really old and pickly. So
I love that. That's amazing. Okay, I could work off that. I could work off that. Schmick also said, yeah, pickling is to preserve, perhaps the motivation to stop decay in opposition to undeath. I like that. So, preserved?
Pickle liches?
Yeah, I mean, like, what is a mummy but a human pickle?
That is true.
It really, really is. That's horrible, and I love it.
Kind of like a pickle, too.
Damn it, I want pickle too.
No, they pickled him! Our king!
Well, didn't they have an issue with that on pirate ships? They would preserve the bodies in rum, and because it was the only kind of spirit you had, and there was this ongoing issue with whoever was in charge of guarding the corpse just taking, like, little nips of the rum.
Oh my god. I do know there was a problem in Victoria, England of people eating mummies.
Yeah, they were supposed to be
the mummy parties.
Yeah, and the mummy, like the unboxing parties where they'd unwrap mummies.
Ew.
The Victorians were wild.
Yeah,
they had nothing to do. Like they're like, we keep dying from tuberculosis.
Yeah,
we need something to take our minds off of it.
We've invented the middle class. Now, what we're gonna do? Seances.
I mean, like, the Victorians were famously obsessed with death, and, like, few things say we have a really weird relationship with death, like eating an ancient Egyptian king. Like, yeah. Just like, I want to just take a little, I feel a little peckish.
Take a little nibble of a mummified corpse. Ugh.
Yeah. That and the corpse photography fad. As soon as daguerreotypes and photography is like, wait, we can preserve people that way. But people tended to not die at convenient times, so there were a lot of family photos where one member is a corpse that's been propped upright with open eyes drawn on their eyelids. It's horrifying, but weird.
Ew.
Humans are weird.
They are indeed. Xavier Light, hello, what's happening? We are joined by two lovely artists, Avery and Emily, as they are bringing some of the gods of this world that we've been building for, what are we looking at now? 28 minus 7. 48 minus 7. 41 hours we've been streaming. For the last 41 hours, we are basically bringing these gods to life in illustration form. So Emily is working on the Emberflow, Lord of Flames, and Avery is depicting our hidden god of gravity and consequence. And we're also talking about how to make the world building, well, the remnants of the end of Game 6 make sense for the future game of Game 7. But I am getting a really nice little idea brewing in my head of this Nutcracker-esque kind of world or world change. So that could be interesting. Now, I believe, Avery, you had some fun facts about Amethyst for us.
Right. So I used to work at a jeweler as a jewelry designer for custom-made pieces. So I actually became very familiar with a bunch of different stones, mostly from like a hardness and a temperamental perspective of like which ones are good for what kind of jewelry, which ones will last the longest. So amethyst, I know some facts of amethyst, like Grecian myths, or there was a Grecian myth or something that you could, if you drank wine out of an amethyst goblet, you wouldn't get drunk. and that was mostly because amethyst was also like magical. They believed it was magical and tied also to the god Dionysus, who was the god of wine.
Okay.
But amethyst, from a like geological standpoint, is a rather soft stone. It like diamonds is very hard, but a brittle stone. And amethyst is rather soft, like it's on about a 4 on the moss hardness scale. A diamond is a 10. So that's why in this illustration I've given all of these amethyst chunks floating around here a little bit more of softer edges. Like it would be easy to go and make them like, ooh, diamond, jagged, sharp, rigid. But amethyst doesn't quite do that, especially when it's been around for a long time, when it gets kind of tumble dried by the universe. It can actually get be like rocks on a beach almost.
Ooh. Okay. Like those polished stones?
Yes. Amethyst is it's one of those things where if you have one on your rings or your jewelries, unfortunately if you wear that ring often, eventually you're going to wear down the sharp, clean cuts of the amethyst gemstone if it's faceted. And you're going to notice that it gets dull, just because of how you'll be taking microscopic chips off of it whenever you rub that against the surface. Anything harder than the amethyst itself.
I didn't know that. Okay.
So,
that's good to know.
Yeah. I mean, I could tell you guys all about what stones to use for jewelry, depending on like how rough you are in your jewelry and what kind of jewelry you want to wear and stuff like that. Because everybody has personal preferences. A lot of people have really like, ooh, I love opals. I really love opals, my birthstone. But opals are extremely delicate to the point where even a drastic temperature change can cause an opal to crack.
Ooh.
If you're shoveling the snow outside with your opal ring on, and then you come back inside and run your hands under hot water to like warm your hands up, that temperature change is enough to snap your opal. They're really delicate.
Ooh,
which
okay.
is why wearing them in like in earrings or in a necklace can be a little bit better. You also like opal like you whack it against the surface, you've cracked your opal. Be careful of stuff like that.
That's why I don't wear expensive jewelry. I'm so scared that just me throwing my limbs around is going to snap something or break something or scratch something. Any expensive jewelry is definitely not being worn on my person. The rings that I usually wear are $5 each. They look more expensive than they actually are.
True. Yeah, that's totally an option. Like when I was working at the jewelry store, we didn't care about upselling you on things. If you wanted silver, we'd get you silver. If you wanted a cubic zirconia instead of a diamond, absolutely. Like we won't upsell you on an expensive $500 diamond if all you want is a $5 cubic zirconia. And go for it.
Yeah. And is there much of a difference between lab-grown stones and organically grown stones?
There is zero difference. There is zero difference. They are like down to they're exactly the same stone. The only thing is just how it's made.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm really interested in I do a lot of resin work, so I'm really interested in the refractive index of certain stones because I love playing with the refractive properties of, like, I'm working on a piece at the moment where I've got a bunch of dichroic prisms that are left over from, like, factory seconds from overhead projectors and so forth. But you shine a beam of light through it and it splits into red, green, and blue. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try and stick a bunch of those in resin and then shine a light through it and see what happens. Hopefully I don't explode anything.
Please don't.
In the process of doing that, I found a whole bunch of, like, really affordable lab-grown stones. And the brain started going, yeah, but what happens if I put those in resin and then shine a light through them? How cool will that be? And
you could get some really cool effects.
What
sort of lab-grown? What kind of lab-grown stones?
Mostly cubic zirconias. And debatable quality, but if they're getting hit with a hammer and then getting put in resin, it's not going to.
Oh yeah.
I'm not
cubics are fine.
Expensive.
Cubics are very, like, diamond dozen, cheap. But you can also get lab-grown diamonds and lab-grown anything, any stone. You can get a lab-grown version of it these days. So a cubic zirconian is not a lab-grown diamond. It's a cubic zirconian is practically plastic to a diamond. Like, it's not literally plastic, but it's not at all the same thing.
Yep.
But you can get a legitimately lab-grown diamond, like side to side, hold this up against a diamond, and you can't tell the difference.
Nice.
Those are possible to get, and you can get those for, like, not as cheap as a cubic, mind you, of course, but you can get lab-grown diamonds extraordinarily cheap compared to regular diamonds because of the quality control. I would compare it to cabbages grown in a greenhouse versus a cabbage that you grow in your lawn, you know?
Yeah.
If the cabbage grown in your lawn, it's like you don't know whether or not you're going to get a good product because you're kind of it's practically random by that point.
Yeah.
Whether or not you get a really good one. But cabbages in a greenhouse, you know, all of those cabbages, or a very high percentage of them, are going to be of good quality. Therefore, it brings down the price of them individually because you have many, as opposed to only one good one.
This is awesome. There's so much stuff I didn't know.
Lab-grown diamonds and lab-grown sapphires are also, I consider them to just be better from like a humanities standpoint as well.
The ethics, like no kids have been digging those up.
Yes, yeah, you know that everybody behind that lab-grown stone has probably a degree, most likely a degree and a fair wage.
Yeah, that's important. Schmick also asks in chat, and AJ has managed 7 hours of sleep during that time. Yes, technically. During the last 41 hours and 13 minutes, I have slept for just over 7 hours.
Oh my goodness.
I think I got five and a half, 6 hours on the first evening, and I got 2 hours last night. Between
that's not fine.
Between game number 4 and game number 5. No, I got that wrong. Game number 5 and game number 6. I got 2 hours sleep. But I'm doing well. I feel up and ready for the day. And then once this stream is concluded oh god.
Then send me your address. I will Postmates you some cocoa. You need some sleep.
That sounds excellent. I've got some tea going. Right
I will do that. I'm gonna get some sleep. Once this stream is concluded, basically at 6 p.m. my time, is when we've reached the end of the 48 hours. After the final hour is basically recapping everything and putting it together in a format and celebrating and thanking all the people that were a part of this. And then I'm gonna go straight to bed and basically crash for the night because I been up for such a long time, and this event has been insane, but so amazing, truly. Every moment of it has been so good. Oh, I just realized we haven't done our giveaway yet. I have to do that in the last game.
Oh.
Ooh, I was meant to do that in an earlier game, but I spaced out on that moment. I'm going to put the actual giveaway next to me so I can remember. True, it's the 2 hours sleep problem.
Yeah, I think that's pretty excusable given the amount of sleep you have not had. Yes,
very, very true. We also released, as a part of this celebration, the official Winter's Tales dice set on our website. So if you want to check out those dice made by the lovely Ravensridge Emporium, our dice partners, you can go to Winter's Tales co.com/store and check out the Winter's Tales dice, done in the lovely, beautiful winter blue color that we've been working on for a while, and molten gold lettering or numbering. Very happy with them.
Nice.
Schmick says, have a great 13-hour sleep. I probably will actually sleep for a decent chunk of time after this. Ooh. He says, ooh, math rocks. I know. I'm so happy with them. We've already had a few people purchase some or pre-order some, and that's been absolutely amazing to see that people are so enthusiastic to get their own Winter's Tales dice set. Because that makes me happy. That's like, oh, you wanna roll with dice that represent Winter's Tales. That's amazing. So cool. The things that we do.
It's awesome.
Things that we do for D&D.
I know.
Some of the dice that you have featured for your players on Winter's Tales are just, I get dice envy every time I see them rolling, and they're so beautiful.
They truly are. The Ravensridge Emporium are amazing. I'm so lucky to have found them. when we were originally just before kicking off season 1 of the Chronicles of Aelwyn, I was reaching out to a few different companies as small businesses in the Australian TTRPG space, as well as globally, to ask, would you be interested in sponsoring this show, this, the studio itself, as well as Winter's Tales, that was just kind of starting up at that point. And I basically got Ravensridge into a video call to pitch them my batshit crazy idea of having the Ravensridge create 7 sets of custom dice that had secrets of the characters within them that they would be able to work out as they discovered things about their characters, because the Chronicles of Aelwyn, the plot line of that is that the 6 characters woke up without their memories, and then in a full amnesiac campaign had to discover who they were over time. And so we created these dice and put secrets into the dice that they would discover later was in there all along, which is a lot of fun.
Ooh. That's so cool.
It was amazing, and they loved the idea and said yes, hell yeah. And I think we spent 2 hours on the phone just getting on a house on fire, similar to how Emily and I met, and then just could not stop chatting.
It was gold.
And yeah, they immediately jumped on board to help Winter's Tales and become a sponsor, and now they're our dice partners, and we continue to work with them. They're good friends of the channel, and it's amazing. So cool.
Do they do custom dice as well, or a set range of dice pieces? A set dice range?
Both. So I saw recently that they have put up the option to order custom dice sets, but they also do batch orders, so they'll make a bunch of dice that they got creative ideas for, and then they'll do a website update and put them all up there for people to order, whichever ones they like. And they, the ones that are on the Winter's Tales website, in our Winter's Tales store, are all the designs from the character dice. Well, not all of the character dice, just the original the original 6 dice and the DM dice. And now the Winter's Tales one. Basically, they can be ordered through Winter's Tales, and then the Ravensridge will create them for you. Based on the formulas that they wrote down for those particular designs, and then ship them out to you, which is so freaking cool. So
that is extremely good to know. My dice envy may actually pay off.
Yes, you might actually be able to order one of the ones that you love. My favorite set has to be, apart from the new Winter's Tales dice set, which I'm going to hopefully get my hands on a set of those soon, but the Under the Nolorian Sea, just as B-Town has said, is amazing. It truly is. The vision for that, when I described it to the Ravens, was a dice that looked like you were at the bottom of the ocean. So within it, there's this red sparkly coral, there is a bed of sand, and there is a misty white kind of smokeness through the dice as well that look like ocean spray in this beautiful bluish very light bluish color, so you can see the things within it, and it's such a beautiful set.
Dice creators are so insane, giga-brained with what they can come up with.
Yeah.
Also, the sheer craftsmanship of being able to work on that scale with resin, being able to work on that scale, keeping the edges sharp. I mess with resin, but I do not have that level of skill. It's incredible.
It's truly a lot. And when I send my batshit crazy ideas over to the Ravens, and so for the latest season of Koa, we have a bunch of new characters that joined that all got their custom dice sets as well. And for one of them, I said to the Ravens, I was like, hey, can we get a really menacing green that has inky black smoke in it? And could you, I don't know, 3D print tiny little green potion bottles and put them within the dice? And the Ravens were like, yeah, sure, why not? Let's do that. That sounds cool. And brought it to life. And it's just a beautiful dice set. So the pairing of the Ravens and I being me sending, just because I can't see visual images in my head, I have aphantasia, so I...
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So
I told you about that.
can conceptualize the idea, and then I send it to the Ravens, and somehow they manifest it into reality. And that is the coolest partnership. It is one of the things I love, bringing creatives on board to be able to bring what I can think of but can't see into the mix, so that then people make the things that are in my head so I can see them. It's good fun.
And it's
crazy.
Yeah, the stuff that you come up with is pretty dang cool. I've been really enjoying the character design process.
Yeah.
With some of the
yes, because Emily has been doing up all our character art for season 3 of the Chronicles of Aelwyn as well, which just flawless job bringing those to life and giving them their new iterations for the season 3 with the character changes internally as well as externally. It's really cool to see like the growth of the characters as well. Do you find that for yourself as well, Avery, like with the Fool's Gold, the art for those characters kind of like you have that down pat, right? But do they ever go through like changes, or is there any significant changes that you remember from like the journey of that story?
Oh, well, certainly one was that when I originally played Gothy, she was an old lady. She was this crunkly little pickle lady, and then I suddenly had to like she basically like she turned back into a young like 30-ish woman, so I had to like reimagine my entire character and be like, okay, they're now like peak physique. What is this? Who is this old lady? What was this old lady like when she was young? And then it's just basically like, okay, this is them now, I suppose.
Did Gothy transport back in time, or is it an old woman in the body of a young sprightly person now?
So, okay, I'll try to explain this. So she's from a race called the Foreclaimers, which were these techno elves. They were elves who enhanced themselves with technology because they kind of weren't vibing with nature anymore, and they became completely obsessed with progress. So they were able to modify their own bodies by inserting crystals into their abdomens, which became like battery sources that powered them up. And Gothy ended up being one of the last remaining Proclaimers after a vengeful god wiped them all out, and she happened to be one of the sole survivors. But in the process, she had her battery crystal removed, which caused her to degenerate into an old woman, which is where she kind of appeared in the center of the story.
Yep.
But because she was also kind of like semi-cursed, or I mean, she wasn't cursed. She actually was friends with the god that killed all the other Proclaimers. He gave her the gift of immortality, which caused her from permanently expiring. However, it didn't cause her from aging into a pickle form. So that's kind of why she turned into like an old sort of Yoda is sort of like a old lady. And then when they returned the power crystal to her and she put it back into her abdomen, it was like putting batteries back in a flashlight. She just reset back to her factory mode and turned back into the peak physique Foreclaimer she would normally be.
Oh, okay. That's fascinating. I don't think I've ever had such drastic things happen to any of my D&D characters.
It certainly is shocking. I won't lie.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I didn't know it was coming.
Ooh.
I did not know that was going to happen to her. Felix was like, "Here we go," and I messaged him like after the campaign because it's such a shell shock, you know, going from like that, and I had to be like, "Hey, I may have to like veto the changes you made because I don't, it's just so surprising."
Yeah.
But about like 24 hours later, I'm like, no, I'm good. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Because it actually gave me the chance to breathe new life into a character that I was kind of learning was a bit one note. We were moving from being a very like, goofy kind of just like hee-haw Monty Python sort of esque D&D troupe to actually taking our story seriously. So that evolution for my character to kind of get a brain cell was pretty good because she was thoroughly insane before.
Oh, okay. Yep. That is amazing. I think that's always really interesting as well when you change the tone of a setting. Like it matures or it grows into something more than what you started with. Like,
yep.
It also depends on the group party, right? There's always going to be the dynamics in a group that change things, like whether you have a group that's full of chaos beans, or you have or you have like the very serious role players and Lord of the Rings-esque type people at the table who want that sort of like epic tale. I think it's always really interesting when one sort of starts feeding into the other, right? So like you've got the chaos beans, and then suddenly those chaos beans end up becoming like really, really honed into the story and really serious, and the role play gets exponential. Who was I talking to about that? Like Taco from
Taco's arc.
Right?
Love it.
Adventure Zone? Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So same thing. Like I'm gonna
after a food breaks your heart.
Yeah. So that's the kind of thing, right? You've got the development of story, the development of tone. As a storyteller, I love that. And that is definitely what has kind of happened over the last 48 hours as well, because we've just had two games of a little bit of Chaos Bean territory, and now we are going to have to try and make a very serious tone with another group of Chaos Beans, which I can guarantee you are a group of Chaos Beans. I haven't played with many of them, but I already know, because Cucumber is going to be one of the players, who, if you don't know, is a puppet from Perception Studios.
Ha! I definitely saw them in the roster.
Yes, puppet. Cucumber is absolutely incredible, but a Chaos Bean, loves a dirty joke, is just going to be a menace, but in the best way, and that is just one of the players. So I just know off the bat that is the energy we're going into with this game. So it's like, do I put them into a war of pickle and bean people? Maybe. But if I put Chaos Beans in a chaotic situation, we're only going to end up with just insanity. It's only going to get worse. Yeah. So if I try and pull together something out of what we've experienced in Game 6, make it very like dark and serious, and then put the Chaos Beans into it, maybe we'll get something incredibly interesting in the process. Who knows?
The thing about D&D is like its magic combination is when you have like, it's like Muppets it's Muppets reenacting Lord of the Rings. I think that's your magic mix. You know, you have doofy felt little bug-eyed guys, and they're going on the most epic, insane adventure of their lifetime.
It's like Muppet Christmas Carol. It has all the ingredients. It has all the ingredients to be ridiculous. It is genuinely ridiculous in parts, but there are also moments when everyone plays it completely straight, and it sucker punches you in the heart. I mean, totally Michael Caine's performance in Muppet Christmas Carol, he played it dead straight, and as a result, he gave the Muppets around him the ability to do that.
Yeah.
But, you know, you can either be a Tim Curry or a Michael Caine, but you're going to get an amazing performance either way.
What a quote.
Yeah.
You can either be a Tim Curry or my brain went to Michael Sheen. That's how tired I am. Jesus.
Also Michael an amazing performance.
Yeah, truly.
Yeah, my personal D&D party is full of a bit of both. I have one player in particular whose stated mission quest is trying to figure out what storyline I'm going down, and then tripping it in such a way that he doesn't derail the story, but it goes in a slightly different direction than I expected. And I love that energy. Every now and again, it means I have to do way more prep than I anticipated, but I really enjoy it.
I can't think of another situation that I've been in where I've had to sort of put so much energy into playing like the straight guy in a scenario, like, because I've done a lot of acting in the past, and I don't think I've ever been in that situation where I've had to be one or the other. Like, there's always been sort of a dichotomy, but maybe one day. I guess being a DM is kind of like that. You have to be the straight man of the group, even if you're adding things in that are insane.
I think you do have to be the straight man. I think if you're the DM and you're trying to be the funniest person at the table, you're doing it wrong.
It's about lampshading other people, not yourself.
Hell yeah. We love that.
AJ?
Yes.
Can you give me those colors again from
Of course.
The Shattered Moons?
Yes. So the shattered moons that are being pulled into a gravitational ring around the planet are red, orange, gold, light green, and light blue.
Okay, so gold, light green, and like a light blue. Okay, so basically just we got a full color spectrum, almost a full prism. Awesome.
Yeah.
I can work with that.
Yeah. Sort of a little bit rainbow-esque, I would say.
Totally.
Also, Emily, I'm watching these like tectonic plates of the lava god come into fruition, and I am here for it. What is happening over there?
That's so cool. I'm peeking at the Twitch chat. I love that it looks like shoulder or hip pads, and that's awesome.
I really wanted to go for the truly androgynous armor, like armor that could fit on either gender, kind of like a very sort of ambiguous shape, but also that kind of like this character is butch regardless of gender. You know,
I like how I was just thinking that you are making an unambiguously butch character and I'm making an unambiguously femme character. Like both genderless, but like two different sides.
Yeah, I love that. It's this very polar opposite color schemes, very polar opposite energies, but still within that same kind of fluid nature. It's fun.
Yeah. This is amazing to watch, truly. Cat Darkness says, Lava God reminding me of a pyrovile from Doctor Who. Ooh. I don't know the reference. How did Game 5 end up going, by the way? Was it the Chaos Ball it appeared to be? Game 5 was not as bad as Game 6 in terms of chaos.
That was the one with Dinko and Dead Ozzy, wasn't it?
No, that was Game 3.
Okay.
Yeah, that was earlier yesterday morning. So that was the first game I woke up to yesterday. Wow, time is weird. It's Saturday.
You're wrong, it's Friday.
What?
No!
Don't tell me that. Yeah, so Game 5 was with our troop of kind of on an escort mission to deliver a Fey Duchess back to her kingdom. And it was the beginnings of chaos. There was a lot of like very crude humor, but not out of the like realm of seriousness. It was still taking on that like tone of there is impending doom and we do need to achieve this mission. And then at one point they teleported into the Shadowfell with no clear indication of how to get out or how to actually get the delivery of said Duchess to the place that she was going. At which point I was like, well, this isn't in the plan, so let's see what happens here. And they decided to go from the Shadowfell into the Feywild to find a portal, which I knew that the Feywild was currently being affected by the inability to transport back from it after the merging of the worlds. And so once they went through into the Feywild, they were kind of stuck in that, but they did have what is known as the Sword of Desire, sort of a lesser wish spell in an item. And once they had that, one of them tore a cut or a hole in the fabric of reality. That was their desire, which basically sucked back all of the characters into the location that they were trying to get to in the first place. But in doing so, that destroyed a little bit more of the world and entered in this new era of just insanity. And then I handed the stream over to Zach Speaks Giant and Sarah Moore and Cinderblock Sally, who basically turned all of my references for the game I was to DM just then into 80s movies references. So they basically had a plotline running that had references to Die Hard, Terminator, all sorts of different pop culture references involved in it. And
the ancient scripture.
Yeah, I just I woke up to that. I knew it was happening because I did overhear them plot against me before I went to sleep. And so I went to sleep with the knowledge that I was probably going to wake up to insanity, which I did. And then I had time enough to read through their notes, pick and choose what I could from it, and run the one shot with that. And then the players made it worse. They created sentient pickles that worship some sort of eldritch being, and then now we're dealing with a church to the pickles, or a pickle church, and the rising of one of the gods, or some of the gods returning to the world. So yeah,
Man, I'm so sorry. Like, nobody like that's a lot to deal with on on a full hour sleep, like full night sleep, much less like 2 hours. Yep.
It's okay. I was very lucky enough that I overheard their plan before going to sleep, because I think it would have been far more drastic had I gone to sleep and then woken up to the knowledge of it. To saying, oh, they've been world building while I've been resting.
Boy, I wonder what. Yeah,
I wonder what they've created for me to like DM, and then it's just like 3 pages long of movie references and stuff woven into the plot. But knowing it ahead of time, I was able to go, okay, I can work with this. I can make it work.
You don't scare me.
Cat Darkness says, to be honest, they didn't read the previous lore outside of what chat brought up. Yeah, exactly. I think that was the other thing. They just started creating a bunch of stuff that didn't really necessarily change any of the stuff that already existed. So it's not like they erased or eradicated things. And then I kind of backpedaled a little bit because they said 1,000 years had passed since the events of the previous game, and I was like, oh, let's make that a little less than 1,000. Let's only make that 35 years because 1,000 is a drastic amount of time. So I made it sort of like a generational difference instead.
Smart.
Let's hop back to see what Avery is up to. Ooh. These colors are beautiful.
Thank you. I'm going in with that bright blue for some highlights to help some of the ridges of the character pop out. I've gone with like making the center of them shaded, like they've got heavy shadow over their faces. They are a black hole technically, so all of the light it'd be dark towards their center point and then light on the edges. Plus it just looks cool. It's ominous.
Oh, it's beautiful.
I'm hoping to add some of those extra spectral colors into these highlights that I'm throwing over the edges of my amethyst here, so I can have those extra rainbow pieces.
Yeah, I love that.
And then
the galaxy
figure out where I want to put. Yeah.
This is stunning. I'm loving both of these creation. Yeah, me too.
So, Lou slightly wondering how much of this is influenced by Karlach from Baldur's Gate 3.
Oh, let me hop back to see what Emily's currently doing. Yeah, I see it.
Going hard in the color scheme with my devil wife.
That is beautiful. You've nailed the sizing of the waist to be both feminine and masculine. And I don't know how you've done it. Like how you've perfectly created like the size of the waist that I'm like, oh, that's a bit feminine, but it could also be a man. Or it could be somewhere in between.
Look back at the Victorian era, wasp waists were in for men and women. Like men, like cishet men had shaping corsets to get this tiny, tiny waist.
And they used to have high heels too before that, like way back in Napoleon times. They were wearing.
Oh yeah, Rococo era was high heels. They would pad their stockings to give them like shapely calves. it was a whole thing. Like the standards of what is masc and what is femme throughout history is all over the place.
And then we go
amazing.
way back to Michelangelo, who was like, I totally know how to paint women, paint men
Yeah.
with just like oranges for boobs.
Exactly. Yeah. I put an orange in a stocking, and yeah,
Got it.
Yep. I love it so much.
That's women.
Yeah.
Got it. Done. Yeah.
Yeah. He is the OnlyFans version of those medieval artists that just put human faces on cats.
Oh my god.
Okay, so I've created a poisonous plant race.
Okay.
So that is in replacement of our like pickle people, or the pickle war. So they are like an acidic kind of plant race, so poisonous plant race, that were preserved by the Evergrowth, which was one of the gods that was buried below the ground, now known as the Mother Brine. So because she was like forced down below the grounds to stop her taking over the world, she basically took her followers with her and then preserved them in a brine of kind to stop them decaying, so that when they rose back out, she could rise out of the ground with her followers. So I think that we are going to basically launch ourselves straight back into where we just left off. I don't think there's a time jump necessarily.
I like it.
Makes
Yeah.
sense to me. Sure.
Yeah, I hope these players are ready for some form of combat, because they might need it. I might warn them.
Nice.
What do you, like? Would they? You'd saying there's a possibility there won't be combat?
A lot of the games so far have had a lot of consequences and a lot of choices, but not a lot of combat. So we shall see.
To me.
Yeah.
The two other DMs that had their takeover sections are a lot more combat focused than me. I am a less combat DM, but I think since this is the end game, since this is the final game of the 48 hours, I think we do need to kind of make this a drastic change, right? Like a battle, a war. The last fight and whatever happens through this will determine what the world becomes. Yeah, I think
makes
that's
sense.
I'm excited. So Avery, I have an art question for you.
Sure.
Layer names. Do you name and group your layers?
No.
Me neither.
I'll group them if I remember to, but I don't typically layer. That's not true. I'll name my line layers sometimes if I'm working with specifically like different, like a complex illustration with a lot of different characters. I'll typically separate them in folders and name the folders after the character, and that's it.
Okay, good to know. I was just wondering if I was the only one off the chain here, because
no.
If it's something that I know I'm going to be tweaking a lot, I will organize and layer things, but most of the time, like, the most you're going to get is blurg or blurg shadows.
Yeah.
I said this recently to someone. I am a type A, or an aspiring type A, but I have too much ADHD. So
isn't that a mood?
Yeah.
Perpetual toast torture, my god.
Yeah, I torture myself because I am very much type A. I love lists, I love organization, I love having everything like prepared and prepped, and then because I am bad at those things, because of the way my brain works, I strive to be a type A, but I am just a very bad one.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
I'm a hyperactive ADHD, so it's like good fucking luck, bud. Like I can't get anything done half the time.
I have
great with like a video essay. It's like, no, this isn't getting done.
No.
Yep.
I am I'm both. I am both hyperactive and inattentive, yeah. Which is just a fascinating combination, by the way. I don't understand how it works. I'm a walking contradiction.
Well, you're making it work.
Hey!
We're so proud of you.
Thank you.
I wonder how many DMs become DMs because it fits in with like for me it was the verbal stimming. Like I didn't know that was what I did, but I will wander around and practice voices to myself and have done that since a very young age, and Dungeons and Dragons gives it a not weird outlet.
What do you mean weird? What do you mean weird? I just do it anyway, right? No?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I love it, but I have been, politely uninvited from things before for that tendency.
No!
So, yeah,
those people suck.
The wonderful sort of cross-section between neurodiverse people, D&D people, theatre people, it's like, that wonderful Venn diagram of queer kids, nerds, theatre kids. D&D's right in the middle. It's the best.
Yeah. Yep. I agree.
D&D is also D&D is a great social activity for people who maybe struggle with social activity, because if you join, say, a sports team, and there's somebody on the sports team who's a bit of an asshole, you're kind of stuck with them, right?
Yeah.
It's like, well, they can come back, but with D&D, it's kind of like you stop inviting them. I call it like it's like what is it called? It's like a self-filtering sort of thing where it's like, yeah, you just don't get invited back if you're a dickhead,
Absolutely. And the emotional check-ins, like for a good D&D game, part of the skill that a DM develops is learning specific and I think this is why it's a great activity, especially if you're neurodivergent, because it teaches you solid formulaic rules for social interaction, but also it helps give you framework for checking in on others and for learning about things like emotional consent and learning about emotional boundaries and so forth. It's like I used to use that with when I was working with teenagers doing D&D. Yeah, we'd use that kind of stuff all the time.
We were once referred to D&D as like it's like the social it's how do I figure this out? D&D is like the emotional version of taking Q-tips and kicking the shit out of each other, but emotionally. Does that make sense? Like, how with somebody, it's like you have a lot of issues. Here, take this foam Q-tip and, like go hit something, D&D is kind of like that emotionally, because you're in a setting where you just kind of like, there's no consequences. There's no real world consequences. It's just kind of like flexing some emotional stuff, or kind of like dipping your toes into some stuff. Like, I want to be kind of a bastard, but my character's a bastard. I'm not a bastard.
Yeah, and it's about learning that separation between imagination and personal. But hilariously, every now and again, the personal crosses over. In the on-running D&D game I have with some very, very dear friends, much like D&D classic mode, no character's going to have both their parents alive, for example. Everyone's going to have some kind of mucked up backstory. So I had one player who was had evolved a lot of backstory involving parents, and then they had an IRL parent death.
Oh no.
So I kind of messaged them and I was like, okay, this is really heavily involved in your plot line. What would you like to do? Because I'm not going to, torture you by making you relive this if you don't want to. And she was like, nah, A, it's cathartic, and B, I can deal with it through humor through this. So as long as you guys are going to be all right with me making dead parent jokes, I'm like, look, I've gotten into that club, let's do it. But yeah, it's just sort of funny how those discussions come up, but also how you can use D&D to sort of deal with it.
Yeah. Definitely not in the replace of like therapy, but adjacent to, like, a way to self-process whilst you might be dealing with something with a professional if needed. And I think it is such a beautiful thing that TTRPGs in general have been able to do and achieve. Like Avery was saying, the communication aspect that so many people are turning to TTRPGs to, teach social aspects to kids with ADHD, with autism, with a lack of social skills, and be able to help them process through life events and things like that, just using role playing and the TTRPG system. And I think that is insanely cool. And I know a couple of content creators in the space who actually are professional psychologists who are working on involving TTRPGs in their practice, which is so cool.
Yeah. I figured it out. It's a social bouncy castle. That's what D&D can be.
It really is. That's such a good word for it.
And for when, like, going back to therapy, I could definitely see a line being drawn between, for somebody who's like really emotionally doesn't have, like, has a really hard time expressing their feelings, has a really hard time being emotionally open, and then they play a D&D campaign and they have to kind of emote and they have to express how their character feels. And I could see that opening the door for them to being like, oh, I can talk about how my TTRPG character feels. So I'm getting more comfortable with talking about how I feel, like in literal terms, and exploring like why I'm acting the way I am, because I've been able to see it through like a third-party lens that has helped me kind of like get warm up to seeing myself these ways.
So,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, Avery, what part of you do you reckon was reflected in Gothy? Like, there's a little part of us that we kind of flex or use to reflect or use to work out some, if it's not too personal a question.
Definitely indecision. I have a lot of problems with indecision, a little bit because of the ADHD thing. I have a hard time making choices under pressure, and also just because I am a bit of a people pleaser, so it's really difficult for me to make choices, especially if I feel it's hard for me to make a tough choice, even if it feels like the quote unquote bad choice or the quote unquote icky choice. There's times in your life where you just gotta be like, no, I know this doesn't feel great, but it's objectively the right decision for this situation, and I've always struggled with that. And Gothy also struggled with that.
She was somebody who going to please everyone.
Yeah, she was somebody who needed to be the leader of the group because the other two characters were dumbasses, like really chaotic dumbasses who were going down really, really toxic paths for themselves. And Gothy didn't know how to lead them properly. She didn't know how to like step in and go, stop that, because she felt too much like she needed to let them she felt like she needed to let them chew on this on their own way, even if it's toxic. It's like, yeah, sure, drink your poison if it'll make you feel better. But she didn't recognize that they weren't getting better. So, or she did recognize that they weren't getting better, but she didn't know how to help. So, indecision, I guess, is something, that I struggle with generally, just because it's hard for me to make decisions. Sometimes I get choice paralysis really easily.
That makes a lot of sense. And yeah, with the separation from ourselves and our D&D characters, we can make the hard choices. We can reflect that side of ourselves that we'd like to be. It is wish fulfillment, but it's also a practice, like a proof that we can do it. Yeah.
There's actually, now that I talk about it, there's actually one more thing for Gothy that I forgot about, that I remembered now, is that, so she literally doesn't have a face anymore. It got cut off in the events of shit hitting the fan with like her nation and the god. Her face literally got carved off her face. Oof. She just has beef jerky basically, where her face used to be. And around the time with Gothy, when I created her, I was struggling really hard with anxiety, like daily panic attacks. because I was always worried about that. I was always worried about this nebulous second shoe dropping. Like you know, when you just have anxiety all the time, you're like, something's gonna get me. Something's eventually gonna get me. You know, it's that boss music in your ear all the time.
Yeah.
And like that was a daily phobia for me. Basically, it was just like, what's gonna get me around the next corner. So for Gothy, she literally had the worst possible thing happen to her. Like, I think arguably the worst thing that could happen to you is somebody cuts off your own face.
Yeah.
And she got through it. You know, she was still kind, she was still funny and mature, and she was still living her best life, even though she had arguably the worst thing that could happen to anybody happen to her. And I think there was a lot of kind of like catharsis of being like, okay, you can be okay. Even if stuff does hit the fan, you can still be okay. And I had to learn that, like, through playing Gothy.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and very, very true. Like, that waiting for the hammer to fall aspect, and, you know, being able to play through that and survive it, that's incredibly cool.
Yeah, I think there was something about, because I was young. I mean, I was like 20, 21. So I think there was something about being like, oh, fuck, I'm an adult now. Shit counts. You know?
Yeah.
Like when you're a
I
kid,
don't get a
you
do-over button here.
Yeah. When you're a kid, you can get you can get do-overs, or you get to slap on the wrist. But there's like a no reset button to being an adult sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, like worst case scenario, you go to jail for an accident. It's like, oh god, I hit somebody with a car, and you know, even if it's not intentional, if you're an adult, sometimes you don't get a second chance at shit.
Yeah.
So I think that was kind of where my phobia was coming from too, which is being like a 21-year-old in the world and being like, oh god, I don't get a second shot if I screw this up. No.
None of us do. That's a very terrifying thought, but it's also like, you shoot your shot. At the same time. Yeah. It's like it's
but
such
now I'm 30 and I've mellowed out of it.
Nice. We love that. That's what they all say. That's what people say, right? That you mellow out when you reach your 30s or even your 40s. Everything starts to chill. I don't. I've drastically changed as a person in the last 3 to 4 years. I'd say significantly. And when I had my birthday last year, I already felt like I had turned 30, even if I hadn't, because of the way that I go about things in my life and the way that I am, incredibly driven and not necessarily a person that I would say is like struggling through my 20s. But I did also have a lot of the struggle prior to my 20s. So it's like, I feel like I kind of went through that a little bit earlier than most.
You speed ran it.
Yeah, I did a fucked up little speed run. And then I ended up where I am now, and it's one of those things that I sort of live by, is the quote, you never know how far you can fly until you spread your wings.
Yep.
And to me it's like,
so
you don't know if you can do it unless you try, you know? Exactly. So this fear that I always had about not being good enough, not doing it, not being able to achieve it, I just had to remind myself over and over again that, well, I won't know if I can unless I do it. And started making things, started saying things like, hey, I'm going to run a 48-hour Calamity stream to celebrate 2 years on Twitch and have it happen. Just happen, like make it happen. And I was talking to my family because my family sort of have always had a similar mindset of being big dreamers and then achieving those dreams, which is a really hard legacy to sort of live up to, right? You have a family that's like, oh, we had big dreams and we kept on striving until they were reality, or we make a plan and we make it happen. So much so that we joked about it recently, I think a couple of months ago when we were hanging out, that the new family quote is, "It's not a dream, it's a plan."
Yeah,
that's a good one.
Yeah. Which I really liked the sound of as well, which was like, yeah, calling it a dream makes it sound like it's impossible. Putting it into steps and making it a plan means that it could be achieved, or it will be achieved, which I just really like. Do you guys have
love
anything that you like live by? Any sort of wisdom to impart on the chat? It got very philosophical.
Yeah,
Who it
as it
is.
does with D&D.
Yeah. Gets deep. Don't eat the yellow snow.
Nice.
Ha.
Yeah, they don't tell Australians that one.
That's like day one in Canada.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I've always kind of had a personal philosophy of whatever you are, be a damn good one.
Ooh.
Like, which again can be a little toxic. I'm the burned out gifted kid, made flesh.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah, I think all of us are in some aspects.
Yeah.
I've had a lifelong mental health struggle,
Mhm.
but through that I've learned that sometimes it's better to be kind than be right.
Mhm.
There are some things that it's important to stick to your guns about, like questions of ethics and morality and standing up for people and so forth. But when it comes down to the little shit, I'm not any less of a person if I back down from an argument.
Yeah. For sure.
Just because it's not worth it for my mental health or from someone else's. But
yeah. We've only got so much limited energy as people. We've got to put it into the time and the things that we want to do, or that make us happy. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and especially as a queer person existing in an online space and existing out in a space. I am in a country, and weirdly enough, in a country town that is pretty progressive.
Yeah.
But there are still fights that I'm not going to win. And some of those fights are, look, give it a decade, you'll be dead and I'll still be here, and living well is the best victory.
Hell yeah.
I can wait you out.
Yeah, I'm waiting out a lot of people, but we'll get there. Yeah, pretty much living well is the best victory, and better to be kind than be right, but also do no harm but take no shit is a big one.
That's a good one.
If something is worth dying on the hill for, you die on that damn hill.
Yeah, I like that. Fight for what you believe in. Yeah, hell yeah. What about yourself, Avery? Anything that you any imparted wisdom you'd like to gift upon the chat?
Something my mom would tell me a lot, especially like one of those things she'd shout out to me when I'm leaving the car to go to school that day. She would say, "Don't hide your light."
Yeah.
Which I think that's something that I had to relearn after my big anxiety years of being like, okay, it's okay. I don't. It's not worth sheltering myself for safety.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
For some people, your safety is priority, but for some other people, it's like, if you want to kind of express yourself, you kind of just have to, people are gonna, not everybody's gonna agree with you.
Yeah.
And that can be okay, but you should never censor yourself because of that.
Yeah, 100%. I am still struggling with the inherent people-pleasing nature that I have, or the need for people to like me. And I check in with myself constantly about this in particular, because it's one of those things that you just can't achieve. You can't have every single person like you in the world. I'm an odd flavor of Birdie Bot's every flavor bean, if I ever saw one. Like, I am just the most burnt out artist, but also this eclectic mix in terms of my friendships, of just all the different facets of myself. It's hard to find people in your life that sort of match to that. So you have those different facets of yourself that you showcase. Like, the TTRPG version of me is very, very different to home life version of me. None of which are like opposing or fake or whatever. But it's definitely interesting to sort of like sit back and think of your friendship groups and the people that are closest to you and things like that, and just hold on to those as strong as you can, because those are the people that really love you for you. And it's also okay if there are people in the world that don't. That's like, that's fine. Just be yourself.
It's also okay for people to be ambivalent to you.
Yeah, they don't have to feel strongly about you.
Yeah.
Either way.
It was good to learn about Sorry, go ahead.
I said the best advice I ever heard about that subject was just like, not everybody has to like you. You don't even like everybody. And it's like, oh yeah, you're right. I definitely don't like I definitely don't like some people. That's true. You got me.
And it's sometimes not even to do with like the person itself. It's just that your energies don't match, or they're not your flavor of person, and something is just not vibing. And it's like, okay, well that can happen to other people against myself. So like, I got to embrace that. But I think learning the ADHD side of myself in the last like two years, I think it was, and learning about rejection sensitivity was the biggest awakening moment to me, going, oh, okay, I get it. Like I don't necessarily need everyone to like me, but when it is clear that someone doesn't, it hits me so much harder. It's sort of created this fear of that, never to feel that sort of pain and anguish again with some of the stuff I went through. So it's fascinating to sort of like dive into your own mind and be like, how do I live in this world and you know, thrive, and you're right, be your own light.
I definitely went through something similar.
Yeah, it's picking apart the Sherlock Holmes puzzle of your brain.
Yeah, that is a song lyric, if I ever heard one.
Yeah, totally.
Picking apart the Sherlock Holmes of your brain, putting it back together again.
I definitely remember having an experience after I learned that I had ADHD of just being, you know, you look up the symptoms, or you listen to people who have the symptoms, and you're like, oh, that's why I'm like that. Like, I am a very, how do I phrase? I cry very easily. It's like one of the first ways I express any kind of strong emotions, negative or positively, is to get teary-eyed. And when you're a teenager, when you get to be like a teenager or like a younger adult age, crying is like one of the worst things you can do. Like, it feels so shameful to be somebody who just starts to cry in stressful situations, but it's literally one of the first things I do. So you have to I had to get over that level of shame that came with like junior high school me, of being somebody who would get really, really stressed out and cry in math class, you know? And now these days I tell people like straight up, I'm just like, by the way, I'm just a stress crier. Like, it's got nothing to do with you. It's just how I process emotions. It's like that you don't, because otherwise people like rightfully will take it seriously if you cry. So like I do have a responsibility as somebody with like a neurodivergent person. Like, we do talk about how the world needs to accommodate for us, but we also need to be self-aware and try to express ourselves as best as we can to the world in like the clearest way possible, because it's a complicated subject. So I take it upon myself to like tell people like, hey, I am gonna cry. It's not that big a deal. It doesn't mean the situation is particularly bad or like anything. It's just how I deal with it. It's just my first reaction.
That's my body's function.
It's like being one of those, you know, the I think it's Crown of Thorns lizards, that when their defense mechanism is to squirt blood from their from their tear ducts at the enemy. And I have the same thing as Avery. Like, everything you were saying was striking a chord, because I'm an emotional crier. I will cry when I'm happy. I will cry when I'm sad. I cried at a WrestleMania when Shawn Michaels mouthed, "I'm sorry, I love you," and then kicked Ric Flair in the face. Because it was a beautiful moment. I did cry like a little girl. But we're Crown of Thorns lizards. When we are surprised, we squirt tears from our eyes to warn off any potential predators. And there's that level of fear. Like, I don't know your ethnicity, Avery, but I'm Caucasian as hell. So
I don't want to be toast.
I don't want to be the white girl who weaponizes tears. And it's like, I promise I'm not trying to make you do anything. My eyes are just leaking. This isn't something I want you to do anything about, or I don't want you to feel any particular way. This is just what happened.
Yeah. I find that really fascinating as well, because I have the juxtaposition within myself. I am also the type that... so I don't have an angry bone in my body. I say this a lot. I don't get angry very easily. And if I do, it very rapidly turns to just like tears or sadness instead, rather than manifesting or holding onto anger. It's just not something that my body does. And in that, what I find really fascinating is like I'll cry in front of people when I'm stressed or upset or whatever, and people comfort each other in different ways. And I learned something recently, because I had to learn it as the person comforting someone. I'm a fixer. I'm the type of person that if I see someone in distress or in pain, or someone's telling me like about their problems, I immediately go to solutions. I can't just like sit in the moment. Well, I say can't. I'm working on trying to sit in the moment and just listen to someone telling me like what they're upset about, because of the quote, learn to be uncomfortable. That person needs you to just be there. This is not about you and your comfort, and you might be uncomfortable with not doing anything, but they just need your presence. So learn to be uncomfortable. And that was really interesting, because I also took it two ways. I took it as I will learn to be uncomfortable for those that need me to just be present for them, or I'll work on that because I'm really bad at it. But also I will feel less pressure when I'm the one crying, to not ask of the other person to feel uncomfortable for a while, if that's what I need.
Yep.
And that's so
important.
bizarre.
I totally agree with that thing, because I think like if somebody is in a really super emotional spot and you try to like quote unquote fix their problem, it can feel like you're trying to shove their emotions like out the door. Like, okay, let's wrap this up as quickly as possible. Let's exist in this space. When the person, of course, like needs to get through that emotion before they're okay with moving into a solution place. I also have so Dingo and Felix are like my two best friends. Felix is really good at being a comfort person, and Dingo is really great at being like a let's get through this person. So I also know which one to come to, depending on like where I am. If I need somebody to like, if I need a shoulder to cry on, I go to Felix. If I need somebody to help me come up with a revenge plan, I go to Dingo.
I totally understand that, and it's one of the I guess the perks of being polyamorous is that I do have different partners to go to for different things. Like if and vice versa for one of my partners, they can come to me when they need solutions, and they go to their other partner when they need comfort, because they're like, AJ's not the person to go to when I'm in the crisis. AJ's the person to go to once I've had the thoughts and processes dealt with and I need solutions. And they told me that recently, and I was like, oh, I respect that. I understand. I do still want to work on this problem that I have, but I also understand that that's your first instinct. So
your people pleaser-ness is fighting with your not super emotional, you're like, there, you'll be okay inclination.
Yep. This is the contradiction constantly within my own mind. It's good fun.
And it's all like we're all working on ourselves. We're all learning ourselves, and that's the sort of stuff we uncover.
Yeah,
it can also be genuinely fun and funny to realize these things and have a friend group who are just like, oh yeah, that's fucking weird. Like when you're like, hey, I figured out that I like somebody who's like, hey, I figured out that when I'm really upset. When I'm really, really upset, I start giggling. I'm making an example. That's not me. I don't do that. Yeah. But like, where your friend group might be like, yeah, that's really weird. Like take the piss out of the situation and be like, because we take ourselves too seriously as humans. Sometimes we kind of just got to be able to be like, I'm a weirdo. This is weird.
I'm the kind of cat that laughs at a funeral, can't understand what I mean, well, you soon will. Yeah, that sort of...
Yeah. Oh, I unfortunately am that person, because I deal with, like, darker subjects through humor, from all of the stuff that I processed, and there have been some very uncomfortable moments in my my history where I have made an absolute fool of myself, and probably perpetuated this, like, fear of people not liking me, where some information has been given to me about, like, something very tragic, the passing of a member of a family or something like that, and my body laughs. And it is a nightmare. And one of the times that I was around a big group of people, we found out that that something very drastic had happened to one of our schoolmates. My best friend at the time grabbed my arm and yanked me in the library. We were studying for exams. Literally grabbed my arm and yanked me out of the situation into one of the furthest aisles from this group of students that were studying, because they knew that the only thing that my body could do to process the information that we had just all heard as a group was to laugh. And so they, like, pulled me down, like, several different rows of
good for them,
aisles
I guess,
of
for
books.
catching that.
Oh my
for
god.
Seeing that, like, the Kill Bill music starts playing and they're running towards you.
It was like a slow-mo, their eyes trained to me, like, no, we can't let her do this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Weird. And there are, you know, it's so good to have that awareness about yourself, but it's also important to be able to find people who are either like-minded or who have a degree of tolerance for the fact that you're going to do that. Like, my whole family is deal with dark situations through inappropriate humor. So we, at family funerals are circuses. We will heckle the person on the pulpit. Like, we are nightmares. So anyone who is not
used to
involved with the family is wondering what the hell is going on. We're all having a great time because we know it's exactly what the deceased would have wanted. Like, no one is taking anything seriously, but it gets you in trouble. Like, I'm a chronic moment ruiner.
Oh,
in intimate relationships, I have gotten in trouble a lot for having to make jokes or having, like, a very serious, heartfelt moment, and then I'll be, you know, I'll just go completely Jake Peralta, noise smart, you know, just horrible to deal with. But you kind of need that
sometimes you do, if that's your way of processing things as well, like that you got to embrace that. And like you said, you've got to have the people around you that know and appreciate you for that, or even just understand the mechanisms that make you who you are. And that's the thing you've got to strive for. Like, if you're with a group of people that wouldn't understand, maybe you're with the wrong group of people.
I ran into that culturally a couple years ago. That real, like, I'm a Canadian, and we were on a bus in Italy. And the bus, there's this grandma, this old lady who was just, like, standing up in the bus and holding on to one of the like the overhead things. And the bus wildly swung, and she swung around, and she sort of just, like, landed on my dad's lap, just like whoop. As you know, she just accidentally swung and landed on his lap. No big deal. But my first reaction was to laugh because in Canada, if that was to happen to a little lady, she would be laughing too. She would think it was really funny. Because it's just like, oh, look what happened, ha ha ha. But on the poor lady, like, she's glared at me because, of course, it's like a little Italian nonna, and it's not funny. And I'm just like, you know, I'm like, oh crap, the Canadian got ahead of me there.
That's you got to apologize. You got to be apologetic off the bat as an Australian. If you're going to interact with a different culture.
Oh yeah,
I have her. I am aware.
Australians are very fascinating people, and some of it, there's a little bit of, like, British humor mixed in, because I've had it a little bit with other British people, or even, like, New Zealanders have the same sort of humor as well, where you will make up complete and utter lies and straight face tell those lies to other people for fun and for sport.
Yeah. It's the larrikin culture, and it gets us in trouble.
I just don't understand where it came from, and the fact that we've all inherently just embraced it from our upbringing. I didn't even realize it was taught to me, but I do it. I will,
Yeah, the art of bullshitting anyone who's not from Australia about what Australia is like.
Mm-hmm.
A Canadian friend of mine...
Canadians do it too. We do it too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We do it too.
That's the thing. A Canadian friend of mine referred to Australia as the America to New Zealand's Canada, and I was like, it hurts because it's true.
I think I did say that. I think I said that to AJ over dinner.
Yeah.
Something similar.
That we
are the louder, more obnoxious cousin that tends to claim your achievements as our own.
Oh, yeah. No, I was wondering where you were going with that. I was like, wait, what do you mean? And then I was like, no, you are correct. We definitely adopt. Well, it's Robert Hartley, GM, we accidentally, a lot of us in Australia, even at PAX, will just assume and also claim Robert Hartley as Australian a lot of the time, which I find very funny because Rob hates it.
And that's also, if you hate it, we're gonna do it more.
We're gonna do it more. Yeah, we are bullies. Like, I know it's for jest, but the culture of that. If you were to take that and put that into a world building setting of this group of people, this continent of people that takes pleasure in lying to others, and enjoys claiming their achievements as their own, like. And then if it makes them bothered by it, they'll do it more. How is that? How is that the logical? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Also, when you take us and put us in a room with a group of Americans, I love Americans to the nth degree. Like, we give Americans a lot of shit. Yeah. But we do all the same things American as a country does. We just don't admit to it. They're loud about what is wrong. They're loud about what is wrong with their country, and they're actively working to fix it. We do exactly the same stuff. We just pretend we don't.
It's terrible. Worse. Yeah.
But the funny thing is that Americans are extremely earnest. They are very sincere, which is beautiful, because if anyone shows, like, they will be in something to 110%. They will throw themselves into it. Which is weird for Australians because we half-ass everything. Culturally.
Everything, even speaking.
Like we don't finish our words. And to an Australian, if you want to show someone that you like them, to put them at ease, you act very informal with them. So you drop the formality, you swear a lot, you're very casual. To an American, to show someone that you like and respect them, you are very formal. You are very polite. So, hey, buddy, for an Australian, that's...
Yeah, camaraderie.
Yeah, that's camaraderie. Or, hey, mate, for an Australian, that's camaraderie. Hey, mate, for an American is, I'll meet you at the back of the Denny's. Same thing with the phrase,
you want to fight.
Yeah. So, for us, I call it Ballajura echolocation. Just screaming swear words at each other across the crowd to figure out where they are.
That's only relevant to Western Australians.
But you know what I mean.
That was I laughed because that's exactly what it is. It's echolocation for like rural Australia. It's just to kind of like swear across a field and have someone reply. But it's the strangest thing to hear someone from WA also say that, and because sometimes I'm barely with other Western Australians in these streams or on the internet, so that was so freaking funny.
Yeah, Perth invokes.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of like what it is for Canadians, because it's like everybody. Okay, the common thing is like Canadians are super polite, and we are
to a degree. To a degree.
I'm trying to think of like Canadians we're really polite, but we use politeness to
soften the blow.
I'm sorry. Yes. Yeah. Politeness to soften in the blow. Felix is German, right? So we've coined this thing where if somebody says maybe, like, do you want to go out for dinner? Do you want to go watch a movie on Saturday? And I might say maybe. and he'll say, "Is that a Canadian maybe or a German maybe?" Because a Canadian maybe means no.
Yeah. Yep.
A German maybe means yes, actually maybe.
Yeah.
So like you have to kind of figure that out. Like Canadians will use politeness.
Yeah.
And Canadians are very Canadians use politeness to keep a distance from each other.
Mm-hmm.
It's I think we're similar to Australians like that. Or when we like you, it's very much just like, hey, and you know, it's there's a rowdiness to us.
Yep.
When we really like you.
Yeah.
But politeness is used to be like it's almost like it's almost like a business casual sort of thing. I'm like, oh, thank you so much. We do use sorry a lot, but sorry is kind of a stand-in for, it's a catch-all term for like excuse me as well.
Yeah.
So and it's not an admission of it's not an admission of guilt the same way it can be in other countries where if you say sorry it's because you feel genuinely at fault. It's more of just an oops. Canadians use sorry like oops. Basically.
Yeah. It's a very a British thing. Oh, I'm terribly sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Excuse me. I think that's very similar. There is a lot of similarities between Canadian and Australian culture, because the other thing that I've witnessed with both is the fierce loyalty to any other member of our culture. Like, Canadians are so fiercely loyal to each other that at one point when I was interacting with some Canadians, I was like, have I accidentally stumbled across the Canadian mafia? Like, this is crazy how, like, loyal this group of people is being. And Australians are the
ride
same.
Or die.
Yeah, you are ride or die, and so are Australians. Like, you could be someone we don't get along with, but if you're a fellow Australian going up against someone who isn't, the national pride of Australians is insane.
It's absolutely
crazy.
You know, they're a dickhead, but they're our dickhead.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it was
Canadians also. There's their inherent defense. With Canadians have the inherent reflex to tell you that somebody is Canadian and not American, because otherwise everyone will assume they are American. Like similar to your New Zealand thing, we always got to tell you, oh yeah, Jim Carrey is Canadian. Oh yeah, Mike Myers is Canadian. We have to tell you who's Canadian because otherwise everybody just assumes that they're American. So it's like a reflex with us.
Daily Dale also in chat says there's also the difference of US Americans being very hyperbolically complimentary to show you like someone, whereas the Aussies show they like each other by poking fun and taking the piss. I'm probably, that's the only time that I am not very Australian in that, and that is because I had a lot of bullying. I got bullied a little bit growing up. And so it took me a decent chunk of time to like rewire my brain to understand that when someone was like teasing or poking fun at me, they liked me. Because there's a very fine difference, a very thin difference between bullying and friendship in Australia. And you just have to be on the same wavelength about it, but I didn't understand that. And so it still takes me a while, and there's occasional points, and a lot of my friends don't like make fun of me as openly because I don't respond well to it. I'm like, oh, even if it's in jest or something. And it's just not how my brain kind of works. I'll do the American thing. I'll be incredibly like complimentary, words of affirmation to the 10th degree.
Exactly.
I will use.
Yep.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go.
Okay. Oh, I was gonna say I use my superpower of being a rather short, a short girl, to use that as my superpower, in that I can give people compliments, and it isn't conceived. I can give random strangers compliments on their outfits or their hair or stuff like that, and it isn't conceived as being particularly weird or off-putting. You know, I love complimenting little ladies in the supermarket. They get such a big kick out of it. So I will like. It's almost like I'll make a point of doing it at some point when I'm out there. I gotta find some compliment while I'm out here today.
It's so good.
It is rare to hear. And for some people, it'll make their entire day.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Schmick is right in this. Aussies tend to not believe complimentary people because of this. And even to a cultural level, there's a lot of my friends who don't do words of affirmation as a love language because compliments make them uncomfortable, because we have this societal like teasing of each other and poking fun as a way to show affection, and so the opposite of that is so like affronting to some people, and that's so bizarre to me. I'm like, my brain doesn't work like that. Please just compliment me instead. Thanks.
Yeah. Tell me nice things.
Yeah,
because we're waiting for the kick in the pants.
Yeah, the other shoe to drop.
Life's gonna give you a kick in the pants no matter what. Like the universe does not compliment you. You know, people compliment you. So use that ability to compliment each other, because you know what life is gonna do? Life's gonna rain on you. Life's gonna run over your foot with a bike. Life's gonna cause you to drop your phone down a grader. Life does not compliment people.
Yeah. I love that.
Exactly. Canadians are awesome. Yeah.
We're fucking stuck in the snow for 6 months a year. When we get out of that snow, we're just like, life! It's beautiful! We just get fucking ravenous.
It's incredible to watch. One of my best friends is from north of Winnipeg.
Oh my god.
I've known her since we were like 17, 18, like we met online, but she's now like a Sealer Squid. If you haven't read her comic, Manly Guys Doing Manly Things, or she's currently working on this amazing cyberpunk comic called Pipe Burn. But yeah, she's a director on, I can't remember what she's directing at the moment. I think she was a director on Little Demons, assistant director on Little Demons last, but incredible animator. She to me kind of showed me how Canadians work, and it's like Mad Max but cold.
You're so not wrong. Oh my god.
You are the cold version of Australian Mad Max, which is just absolutely brilliant.
Except you've got Zambonis instead of those, crazy tricked out rigs.
Amazing.
Okay, so funny story. I was driving to work one day, and I was commuting from rural Alberta into the middle of the city. So I'm driving on rural Alberta, and then there's like a traffic stop or something. I have to turn off the main highway onto basically just like a back road. So it's just like snow drifts that are like 6 feet tall and really thick unpaved snow, so it could easily drag you into the ditch to get caught in it.
Eesh.
And I'm just thinking like, I'm already late for work because I got to take this detour. All I'm thinking about is I was late for work because it was like one of my first jobs and I was being a goody two shoes. I didn't want to be late. And this pickup truck, I'm coming up to like a T-bone intersection basically. Or no, it's just I'm coming up to like a four-way pass or cross or whatever. And this truck ahead of me just drives right through in front of me, like not close enough that he risked hitting me, but he just drove right through and into a snowbank. Just hits the snowbank as if it was a toddler running out into the first snow of the year. Big plume of snow. I didn't even realize what happened until I got home from work later that evening. Like, I just watched somebody full drive into a snowdrift, and I was like, I gotta get to work, and I didn't even I didn't even register it. I hope they're okay. Because I have no idea. I think they're fine. The way they hit the snow implied that they hit a lot of powder. And I mean, like, they were going at it. Like, it was their own fault they hit that. Yeah. It wasn't anything I did, because like I said, they weren't anywhere close to hitting me. So, I don't know. So that's just the kind of stuff you get used to in Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Daily Dale says, it's too real, Schmick. I can't really trust a person until they've made fun of me a bit. And I read that and went, Daily Dale doesn't trust me. And then the follow-up of Dale also saying, and also a bizarre litmus test of whether I'll click with a therapist, lol, is the best. The best contribution to that. It's so amazing.
Yep.
AJ, did you ever watch Basil Brush growing up? I didn't, no.
Okay.
I don't know
Remake
what that is.
Basil or original 70s Basil?
What is Basil?
I have no idea who Basil Brush is. I'm
Basil
so sorry.
Brush is an English... let's read with Basil Brush. I was raised on the BBC. It's an English TV program with a talking fox puppet who's a bit of a dick. Essentially, the presenter reads a picture book or a book, and Basil creates hell. Yeah, extremely entertaining. But yeah, that was the original 70s version. I haven't watched the remake, but yeah, Basil is a fox puppet who is an awful person and
Excellent.
makes for great television.
Premium for small kids.
Yeah. So how many of us got our early world building trauma from the Animals of Farthingwood?
Nope.
Or Redwall?
What do you mean early world building trauma? What do you mean world building trauma?
Or like early big epic fantasy trauma. I was using the wrong term.
Oh.
I didn't really. I think the closest thing to that for me was Watership Down.
Yeah, that's
I never really
same cloth.
Watership Down. I was kind of like, oh, these rabbits aren't having a great time. I'm gonna watch SpongeBob.
I don't think I've had one. I have terrible memory. I don't think I've had a world building trauma, as in like the beloved characters that you like die, or
can you explain?
Yes, I used completely the wrong term there. Like sort of high fantasy trauma in you've been introduced to this epic sweeping narrative in which it seems to be framed in like a classic high fantasy. It pulls a Game of Thrones. It seems to be framed in a classic high fantasy thing of your characters are going on an epic quest and truth and like there's a great evil, but truth, justice, and so forth, and the power of friendship will overrule. But then
it doesn't.
The sheer chaotic randomness of life and the inherent unfairness of existence crunches down extremely hard, and characters that you love die in traumatic ways. Watership Down, Animals of Farthingwood was a classic one. It's a BBC animation, but basically a forest full of adorable woodland creatures try and make their way to a new home, and many of them die in very traumatic ways on screen.
Oh, okay.
This is an animation pitched at children.
Hey, gotta learn early. No kidding.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think, again, I will answer, I don't think I've had one. I don't think I had a lot of traumatic world building where it was like, did that to me. Other than like, obviously Game of Thrones, fucked it up at the end, or like, the devastating contradiction of the love of Harry Potter to the horrible outcome. Yeah. And now not being able to enjoy the childhood that was involved in that world because of just horrible. But Bambi? Does that count? As a kid? I think that was my first. He came back. I mean, he came back and like ruled the kingdom.
Don't know if Mum did though.
Yeah, true.
No, but and then Lion King Mufasa died. That sucked.
Yep. Yeah. True. But I don't think I've had anything along those lines that's really like messed with me. Yeah, I've never had anything that's made me cry. I just had trauma in real life. No, I don't know. I consume content all the time, whether that be books and movies, TV shows, all sorts of stuff. I have a very weird mix of things in my memory and brainscape of all these different types of things I used to watch. But I also stop watching things when they get to a point that I'm not enjoying it necessarily. And so there is a weird moment if a story isn't hooking me, because I first and foremost I call myself a storyteller. If a story gets like bad, I kind of stop tuning in. So I haven't found a lot of those things where it's like I will watch all of this. like if TV shows is mostly what I'm talking about, or if it's like a book. If I get through it and it's hooked me, I'm hooked, and I will read to the end and I'll be engrossed in it. But I haven't had anything that I've done that with that then has broken my heart.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. That was a long-winded way to explain that.
That makes total sense.
How are we doing on these beautiful artworks?
I'm getting close to being done.
Ooh.
I'm just debating what kind of weapon I give our magma folk. Like just a spear of flame or something? Or a sword, an axe? Do they need a weapon? Are they just arm in the air?
I love the idea of like a flaming spear, like the way that Zeus carries a lightning bolt, kind of like a. Ooh. That would be cool.
I think we can do that.
Yeah, that'd be sick. Let me move back to Avery to see the amazing god of gravity and consequence. Look at this being. I'm so thoroughly impressed with both of your interpretations of these gods. They are insanely cool.
I'm working in some of those particle dusts from the other moons that split up, because rings don't have to be horizontal, they can be vertical.
True. That's cool. Look at this thing, it's so pretty. You guys have done an amazing job.
So cool.
Oh boy. We've got about 15 minutes until the next game is meant to kick off, so we should probably go to break and start organizing some things. But what I'll do in the meantime is I will sign off from this, go to a little bit of a break and set up for the next one, and then when you guys finish your creations, we will display them on stream either during the next game or at the end when we do our recap celebration at the end of this event. I love it.
When may we post on our socials our arts?
When it's complete, go do so. Yeah, right. Whenever you want.
You don't want to accidentally not
spoil it for people.
Players.
No, you should be okay. Like these
Nobody
two
follows
gods.
My Twitter anyway.
These two gods have been around for the last most of this 48 hours itself. So if they haven't been spoiled already, sorry to them. But these gods were mentioned in game 1, so
okay. I want you to look quickly at what I'm drawing right now, like my ring. I added like white sparkles to it. Doesn't it look like those sour gummy candies if I add the white? It looks like exactly like those sour gummy rings that you lick up and you're like, blah, blah.
I was going to buy them as a snack to sort of eat on this stream, and now I regret not buying them because that is so amazing. We're going to go to a quick break to get in the next group of players and basically kick off the final game of this 48-hour calamity. Holy shit.
Oh, you're so close to being able to sleep, AJ. Are you excited?
I know. I'm excited. But more than anything, I'm excited to see where this goes. So I will be right back. But Avery and Emily, thank you so much for joining us for today's stream, and we will showcase your art and basically promote the hell out of it in the wrap up of this 48 hours. Here are the links to go and check out more things from Avery and from Emily. You will see all of Emily's artwork for season 3 of the Chronicles of Aelwyn as well, and I am definitely going to put up a massive post to promote the comic that Avery does with the vampires. It's just, I love it so much. So go and check both of these beautiful humans out, and then we'll be back in about 10-15 minutes, probably maybe a little longer than that. I do have a few things to sort with the overlay for this final game, so 15 minutes at the maximum I'm going to try and achieve, but we'll see. We will be back shortly. Say goodbye, guys. Not that you can wave, but
bye,
say goodbye.
Bye, guys.
Bye
Thank
now.
you.